This day in Philly sports history is proud to be a part of the Clashing Conferences Sports Fan Network, where passionate fans make powerful content. Check out theclashingconferences.com and join the squad today.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to This Day in Philly Sports History for September 22nd, 2025. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Monday edition of the podcast, a Victory Monday. Yes, you can hear from my raspy voice. It is a Victory Monday, and what a victory it was. So let's get right into what we missed over the weekend. Every Monday, we rewind the weekend, brought to you by Philly Goat. Go to phillygoat.com. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery to take 10% off of your order. Celebrate the big Eagles win. And what a win it was, 33-26. Don't really have a ton of notes. As you know, once we get into it, I like to just kind of tell you what I saw and then have time to go back and watch and everything, and as we go through the week. But it's really, this game was a tale of two halves. And 26-7, they just looked absolutely dreadful on offense. Defensively, I will say in the first half, they did what they had to do. Like they gave up some touchdowns early, but they held them when they needed to. And those field goal attempts and holds that they held them to really paid off in the end. The second half, though, and minus like the first two drives of the third quarter, it's almost like Jalen Hurts. And I don't know what, like I said, I didn't hear any interviews or anything like that. But to me, it was the play calling. And like, I'm not sure what Petula was doing. And watching that game, there were plenty of times where the middle of the field was wide open and they didn't really take advantage of it. Running the ball on 2nd and 15. Just very questionable. And it's almost as though Jalen refused to lose this game. So I don't know what conversations happened at halftime on the sideline, whether it was between Sirianni and Petula, Hurts and Petula, all three of them together. But it was a completely different look in the second half of that game. And Jalen just, as he said before, is that what y'all wanted to see? He was able to throw the ball around. A.J. Brown finally was able to have a game, got into the end zone. Saquon still couldn't get going early, so that might be cause for concern. It didn't help that Lane Johnson was out, who appears it was just a stinger. He said he expects to play next week. But the adjustments were there, and kudos to Vic Fangio, who adjusted as well. And I think we got a guy there in Vic Fangio. Underrated with his in-game adjustments and things like that. But this one was Jalen just refusing to lose this game. And then, of course, Jordan Davis, the hero. And, man, what a stud. I don't know, man. That was just, if you watch the replays of that, I've seen it all over Twitter. He and Jalen Carter just blew up the interior of the Rams offensive line on that field goal attempt. And then he showed off the quickness, 18 miles per hour, which is pretty damn fast for a guy that weighs 320-some pounds. But good win. We'll take it. You get a huge win in the NFC. The fact that this team showed resilience, this team showed a never-die attitude. You got to love it. And like I said, starts with QB1 and the fact that he refused the game. So all the haters out there, what are you going to hate on now? He did what he needed to do to win that game. And you say it all the time. You can't pass. You win this game. You don't even have 100 yards. Blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Threw for 220 and needed every one of those 220. So good win. Kudos to the Eagles for hanging in there. Still, obviously, a lot of things that need to be cleaned up, specifically on the kickoff returns. I've never, I don't get why you fumble 3 of them, and it really put the offense in a bad position there, especially in the first half, being deep in their own territory. So, excuse me, that's got to be cleaned up. But overall, we'll take it. I trust that they will work on things and get it cleaned up. I'm starting to hear some people compare this to the 2023 team. I still think it's way too early for that because I think the fact that they went through what they went through in 2023, that's why I don't see this going down that same, excuse me, my voice is just uh, gone. But I don't see them going through that same path as they did in 2023 because they came out of there stronger. It would have been very easy after the first 2 weeks for them to go down there, especially the way this week that the first half played out. I'm not ready to go there yet because if you look, this team really didn't find itself until after 4 games last year. I mean, we're 3-0 through the first 3 games. I talk about it all the time. We want to break the season into those pods, those 4-game pods. And we said 2-2 would be a good way to come out of these 4 games. But now we're at a point where we can get greedy. Let's go 4-0 and then worry about the next 4 pods. But like I said, Jordan Mailata did mention that and bring that up. And I think it's something that they do need to think about. I don't want to just dismiss it and say, oh, no, it's not going to happen. But I do think that they need to be aware of that. They need to be conscious of that and really do. Like Nick Sirianni always says, we got things to clean up. And they do. They certainly do, from play calling, special teams, getting it's like the Rams have a good defensive line. But there was no push for Saquon, and there's plenty to clean up. But I think they will, and I think the fact that they lived through and survived and came out of it a better team last year, 2023, I'm not ready to say that this is going down that path yet. And if you think about it, we were saying a lot of those same things in 2023 through 3 games. We were saying the same thing last year through 3 games, and you saw the difference between the 2 seasons. I think this team is going to be more like last year's team than the 2023 team. But obviously, time will tell. But good win for the Phils. Eagles. I'll have more on this as I'm able to hear some press conference, do some reading, and things like that. I had to go right from the game to my daughter's CYO volleyball game. So, like I said, I have not been able to listen, read, or do anything. But we'll take it. And kudos to the Eagles public address team and in-game entertainment. It was the 21st of September. If you guys saw my Facebook or social media post, had a little bit of fun with that, a little earth, wind, and fire. But what a night. In 25 years, I can honestly say that was the most exciting finish to a game I've seen. And I've seen a lot of bizarre things in my time. And I will say, and my cousin was sitting next to me, and even though it was 26-7, I'm like, excuse me, there is like, you get vibes, you get a feeling of sometimes. There are games where they're flat, and you're just like, they're going to lose this game, or they're winning, but you don't feel good about it. There was just something about the vibe in that game that I'm like, I think they're going to win. At one point, I said they're going to win at 28-26. Wasn't 28-26, but still, there was just something about it. The energy was electric. What a game. Like I said, what a way to really move to 3-0. And the fact that they're resilient, I think, and that's one of those things you can't teach. Like, that is what good winning teams do. They find ways to win. And there definitely are times where you could lose that game very easily. And I've seen the Eagles lose that game. But good vibe, good atmosphere at the stadium. I want to give a shout out. I doubt that they're listening, but in the row in front of me, Josh Wallace, one of the backup cornerbacks for the Rams, his entire family was sitting in the row in front of us. He's a Michigan guy, but like it was pretty cool. They were nice. I bought his grandfather a water. He didn't want a beer, but grandfather was just proud grandfather. He flew in from L.A. Dad was sitting right in front of me, and he pointed out the same thing. So to give you some perspective on the offensive struggles in the first half, he was pointing out, why are they not throwing the AJ? Like, he is open every single time against that secondary. He was like, and I'm a Rams fan, and my son plays in that secondary. AJ should be torching this team. But again, kudos to Patullo for making those adjustments, or Jalen or Sirianni, whoever made the adjustments, kudos to them. But I do want to give a shout out to the Wallace family. They were pretty cool, very nice. Even his aunt was like, "Hey, give me some love too. I'm the aunt." But it was a good time down there at the stadium. Eagles win 33-26 to move to 3-0, and now it's on to Tampa. So we'll see how if they play in that first half like they did today against Tampa. It's not good. It's not gonna be pretty. So again, lots to clean up. But the Eagles win 33-26 thanks to Jordan Davis's amazing heroics, whatever you want to call them. The big man. Gotta love when big guys get in and show off the wheels like that. But like we do after every game, that leads to today's question of the day. Who was the GOAT of the game? I mean, obviously, it's to me, it's Jordan Davis. But you can go Jordan Davis, Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, or Devontae Smith, who made a lot of catches. He didn't have the flashy numbers, but he made some of those tough catches too. So hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line 267-495-8531. Who is the GOAT of the game? Of course, later this week, Kyle and I will have more on this, recap it, get you ready for that Buccaneers game on the Brotherly Birds breakdown, dropping Thursday night. Hopefully, maybe I can get it done in time for Thursday Night Football, but I'll get into this in housekeeping. It's going to be a weird, wonky week for me. So we're not going to record until Thursday. So it might be a little later, but it'll still be out for Friday. But who is your GOAT of the game? To me, it's Jordan Davis. I mean, you could certainly make the argument for Jalen Hurts, but you got to go Jordan Davis as the GOAT of the game. He was everywhere, had a sack. Man, what a stud. What a player. All right. I missed this in the morning yesterday, but kudos to the Eagles for putting something up on the big board. Condolences to the Bernie Parent family. Bernie Parent, the two-time Stanley Cup winning goalie for the Flyers, passed away yesterday. One of probably, I mean, everybody talks about Bobby Clark and Bill Barber, but they don't win those Stanley Cups without Bernie Parent. So sad day. Seemed like he was just a genuinely nice, good guy. But Bernie Parent passes away. So condolences to the Parent family, the Flyers organization, and everybody who knew Bernie. Rest in peace, man. And you were the main reason probably they win those Stanley Cups in the 70s. All right. Phillies had kind of a rough weekend, losing 2 of 3 in Arizona. They never play well in Arizona. I don't know what it is. It's just San Francisco and Arizona. And I'm telling you, it's the West Coast thing. But they never play well, losing 2 of 3. Friday, 8-2. I like the little piggyback, as Rob Thompson called it, with Taijuan Walker and Walker Buehler. Brandon Marsh continued to play well. Castellanos hit his 250th home run in a pinch hitting role and then got skewered by the media. And I've seen people come down on both sides on the Castellanos thing. And look, I don't think it's out of bounds at all to ask some of the questions. But when the media just keeps asking the same question 10 different ways and then gets pissed because Castellanos is getting annoyed, and kudos to Castellanos, who handled it, I thought, very, very well. But it's like, man, like people say all the time that the media is tough in Philly and the media runs players. This, to me, what they did to Castellanos on Friday night, that's why people say that. Because it's like he gave you the answer, and then you're going to keep asking him the same question. And I don't think he said anything out of bounds. He's frustrated. He should be frustrated. He went from playing every day to being in a platoon situation. But he said it's not about that. It's about I'm getting paid to help the Phillies win the World Series. End of conversation. He said that communication with Rob Thompson has not been great. Okay, I don't think that's a huge story. Could the communication? Absolutely. But why are we trying to pick something and to drive a wedge in this team when they're trying to win the World Series? And that's why people get on the media. Let it go, man. Let it go. Anyway, enough about that. Phillies lose Saturday. Nola was not great. He was okay, giving up 4 runs. The bullpen, it seems like Rob Thompson is experimenting with some different combinations in the bullpen, but just couldn't couldn't get it done. And then Ranger just had a dud yesterday as they lose 9-2. However, the Dodgers did lose, so with 6 games left, the magic number for that bye is now 2. Looking good for the Phils as they try to get that bye, which is super, super important. But the magic number is 2, 3-3 on a West Coast road trip. I'll take that anytime. They won a division out there. It seems like years ago at this point. But Phillies off today. Open up a 3-game set against the Marlins. And then it is the Twins this weekend. Hopefully, that Twins series is not going to matter as they have already clinched the bye. But that leads to today's trivia question. I saw this. If you stayed up and watched the Phillies game on Saturday night, you know the answer to this. But what 2 National League teams have the Phillies never played in the postseason? Hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line, any of my social media, at Philly Jimbo. But what 2 teams have the Phillies never played in the postseason? I'll give you a hint. There's a possibility they can play one of them this year. All right, what else happened this weekend? College football. Nova lost their CAA opener to Monmouth 51-33. Just were never really in that game. The Temple Owls got off to a rough, slow start, falling down 21-0 to Georgia Tech, but did battle back to make it close. At one point, it was a 21-14 game, but Georgia Tech just proved that they're a superior team. But the Owls did get the backdoor cover to move to 3-1 against the spread this year, for those of you who are into those types of things. But 45-24, some good takeaways for the Owls from that game, though. It was definitely, I watched it, and Georgia Tech, I mean, it's an ACC team, so obviously the talent level was better, but the Owls held their own and got the backdoor cover. Yes. All right, Union won 1-0 to end their losing streak against New England down at Subaru Park. Bruno Damiani scored the goal for the Union as they now have a 2-point lead with 3 games to go for the Supporters Shield. They're jockeying for playoff positions, but to get the top seed or be the top point scorer or top team in the regular season certainly is a goal for the Union. They're off until Saturday. All right. What happened this weekend in Philly sports history? Well, on Saturday, September 20th, 1992, you probably saw this going around social media. Mickey Morandini with an unassisted triple play, the 8th in Major League history. However, the Phillies did lose to the Pirates that day 3-2. And then kind of a not good anniversary for yesterday. Back in 1964, Chico Ruiz steals home. Phillies lose to the Reds 1-0, kicking off a 10-game losing streak where the 64 Phillies collapsed and failed to win the pennant. We all know the story of the collapse of the 64 Phils, the fold, all of that. But that kicked off on September 21st, 1964, when Chico Ruiz stole home to give the Reds a 1-0 lead, and then it just snowballed for the 64 Phillies from there. All right, some quick housekeeping notes. Tomorrow and Wednesday, the podcast is going to be a little wonky. Making a quick little trip up to the mountains, so it might be a little bit later for the holidays since the kids are off the next 2 days. We'll be coming out. It just, obviously the background will be different, and it'll be a little bit probably a little bit later as I try to figure out the right place to record and everything. Staying in a big house with a ton of families, so might be seeing me outside as long as it's not raining. Hopefully I don't get attacked by a bear. So we'll be out tomorrow, Wednesday, just might be a little bit later than normal time. Be sure to follow me on social media, as I mentioned, at Philly Jimbo. And then I talked to you about this last week, but if you want to buy a raffle ticket for $20, that gets you an opportunity to win home game tickets to all 4 of the major sports teams in Philly. Hit me up and let me know. $20. There's also a 70-inch TV prize, Philly spring training trip. All the proceeds go to the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame. So if you're interested in a raffle ticket, hit me up. If you had a good weekend betting, you bet those Owls. $20 helps out the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame and gets you a chance to win tickets to all home games for all 4 of the major teams. And of course, the Brotherly Bird Breakdown will be out later this week. Kyle and I will break down the Rams game and get you ready for the Buccaneers. Thanks to everybody who has been supporting so far. Had a good week. with engagement. So let's keep it rolling. Spread the word if you're enjoying it. So, and then best way to stay in the loop, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_mine. Can't get Philly Jimbo on there yet, but all of that is available on YouTube. All right, Friday's trivia question. It was Donovan McNabb Day on the pod. I asked you, who are the other 4 quarterbacks in the first round taking with McNabb? That would be Tim Couch at number 1, Achilles Smith at number 3, Dante Culpepper at 11, and then Caden McNown was the one a lot of people struggled with for the Bears. He was in the teens, I believe. But thank you to everybody who reached out. And the trivia question for today, who are the only 2 teams the Phillies in the National League have not played in the postseason? And the Astros are another one of the ones they played, even though they're in the American League now.
Whether you're coaching Little League, crushing your fantasy league, or just rolling up to a bachelor party like a Philly legend, Lotwin custom hype chains bring the energy. Fully customizable, totally unforgettable, and guaranteed to turn you into the MVP of the moment. Great for teams, groomsmen, or anyone who wants to show off with some serious swagger. Go to Lotwin.com, use the promo code TCCPOD, and get 10% off your own custom hype chain. Lotwin, let's get hyped together.
All right, let's keep it rolling with the Eagles here on September 22nd. It's a victory Monday. And let's go back to 1949. The defending champs opened up their defense of the title with a 7-0 win against the New York Bulldog. Bosh Pritchard scored a first quarter touchdown for the Eagles, and that was all the scoring in the game. That 1949 team would go 11-1 to repeat as NFL champions. Is that something that's in the cards for this team this year? Then we're going to go to 2002. Eagles put a beat down on the Cowboys 44-13 at the Link. Donovan McNabb threw for 287 yards, 3 touchdowns to James Thrash, Antonio Freeman, and Todd Pinkston. Also ran the ball 6 times for 67 yards and a touchdown. Brian Westbrook got into the action, throwing a 25-yarder to Pinkston himself. Defense clamped down on Quincy Carter. Remember Quincy? Forcing 4 turnovers and sacking him 3 times. And I still think of that whole Andy Reid crew, those teams. I think that 0-2 team may have been the best despite having Thrash and Pinkston as their wide receivers. I think the defense certainly probably was stronger and better than the 0-4 team. But on this day in 2002, Eagles thrashed the Cowboys 44-13 at the Link. And then for this last one, not going to have to go back too far. Last year, 2024, and this was sort of the turning point of the season. If the Eagles lose this game, we're having way different conversations. They go down to New Orleans, score 15 fourth-quarter points, including a 61-yard pass from Jalen Hurts to Dallas Goedert to set up Saquon Barkley's 4-yard touchdown run. They got the 2-point conversion, and then Reed Blankenship sealed it with an interception. They did lose the next week down in Tampa, but they would go on to win 16 of the final 17 games, including the beatdown of the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So the fact that they were 2-1 last year, very close to being 1-2, and here we are 3-0, I think we're okay. Like I said, they have some things to clean up, but I think we're going to be okay. And then finally today, continuing with our underrated and underappreciated Philly sports athlete, today, George Lynch. George was a free agent signed in 1999, spent 3 years in Philly, solid, 6.7 points per game, 6.3 rebounds per game. But his claim to fame, and he was brought in here to be the defensive guy, kind of be that grinder, the mucker and grinder. He was a Larry Brown guy from Carolina. He did all the dirty work that team needed. The Sixers team in 2000-2001 certainly don't play and get to the NBA Finals without the play of George Lynch. He started 80. I forgot that he started most of the time, but he started 80 of the 82 games for the Sixers that year. And again, he was just the grunt guy that did what you needed to do defensively. Certainly underrated, certainly underappreciated, but he was a guy that I feel was very instrumental in that 2000-2001 Sixers run. And the Sixers will be celebrating that team all year this year, the 25th anniversary. But George Lynch, one of the guys from the grunt guys, I like to call them, doing the dirty work for the 2000-2001 Sixers team, is today's underrated, underappreciated athlete. On this day in 2024, Eagles beat the Saints down in New Orleans 15-12. And if you remember, coming into that game, the Saints offense was humming. So this is where the defense, I feel, kind of started to turn it around under Vic Fangio en route to the Super Bowl in 2024. 2002, Eagles pound the Cowboys 44-13. Donovan McNabb had himself a game, throwing for 3 touchdowns, running for another, as that 2002 team was just solid. And then in 1949, the Eagles opened the season defending champs with a 7-0 win over the New York Bulldogs. All right. We'll have more on the Eagles game tomorrow. I'll be up in the mountains, so like I said, expect the pod a little bit later, Tuesday and Wednesday, but it will be out. Break it down. Don't forget to get me your GOAT of the game. I'm going Jordan Davis. I don't think you can go anywhere else with that. But hit me up on the Back to the Future voice and text line or any of my social media. Let me know who your GOAT of the game is. No Phillies game tonight. It'll be a low key, so probably a much shorter podcast tomorrow, which is okay. It was a long weekend. We need to kind of relax as we get into the home stretch for the Phillies. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for September 22nd, 2025. My name's Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Victory Monday. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.